Anytime I'm near a honeybee hive, I linger. I can't seem to help it. Even though my to-do list is as long as any honeybees, I just stand there and gawk. Perhaps it's the 40 years I've spent managing construction sites that has me so enamored. There's no one in charge of a hive, but everything gets done. There are no bees leaning on shovels or drinking coffee or chatting on their cell phones. The vast majority of the bees in the hive will only live a few weeks. They quite literally work themselves to death. At the hive entrance, there's always an endless torrent of bees coming and going. Most of them are foragers, collecting everything the hive needs to thrive: pollen, nectar, propolis, and water. When they return, they're met by guard bees. If the guards don't recognize the smell of an incoming bee, it's either chased away or killed. Once safely past security, the foragers are greeted by specialized worker bees inside the hive that help them unpack their bounty. Pollen is the only source of protein the hive gets, and is vital as a food source. Each forager bee will visit only one type of flower on any given foraging journey, and when they return, their pollen sacs range in distinct colors from bright yellow, pink, deep amber color, depending on the type of flower they visited. Nurse bees inside the hive mix the pollen with honey and their enzyme-rich saliva to make a fermented bee bread. The bread is then fed to all the bees in the hive, and any surplus is stored in empty cells for future use. The nurse bees consume more than their share of the bread and in turn produce royal jelly, which is fed to developing larvae and the queen. The larvae are fed the jelly just for the first 3 days of their life. The queen is fed jelly throughout her life. The foraging bees are fed last, and if there isn't enough left over to feed them their full ration, the foragers get the message that they need to work harder to get more pollen for the hive. FYI, this kind of feedback loop would not work well for me at all. Nectar is transferred from the foraging bee to worker bees, and the enzymes it's exposed to in the process turns it into diluted honey. Young bees are in charge of storing the watery honey in a comb and fanning it with their wings to evaporate the excess moisture. Once it's the right consistency, they cap the cell with wax. Tree resin is brought back to the hive, mixed with the honey and saliva to create propolis. The building crew inside the hive uses the propolis to cover the bottom of an empty cell before the queen lays an egg in it. They also use it to fill in small cracks in the hive, and somewhat ominously, it's also used to encapsulate any intruder that was killed by the guard bees but is too heavy to remove. Propolis is what gives beeswax that wonderful aroma. Without it, the wax has no scent. Water is as essential to bees as it is to humans. Water collector bees work tirelessly, bringing water into the hive. The water is used to make bee bread, royal jelly, and to reconstitute stored honey. On hot days, it's also sprayed over the surface of the empty cells where several thousand young workers' bees flap their wings, creating a wing-powered cooling system, not unlike our own air conditioning systems. By human standards, I'm a pretty industrious being, but I'm sure the bees consider me a total slouch. Every time they see me, there I am, leaning on a shovel, just watching them. For Christmas, they're probably going to get me a t-shirt that says, "I love hard work. I could sit and watch it all day."